What is something generally normal in Europe but weird in the US?
Toilet doors that go all the way up and down. For some reason, Europeans don't like people watching them take a shit. Up and down, who cares? But in the USA, you literally have a 5-centimeter gap between the wall and door, so you can accidentally make eye contact with someone taking a dump. I've always heard it was done that way in the USA due to homophobia, fear in past decades of men sneaking into stalls to have gay sex, especially in the armed forces. No idea if it's true.
Airports and truck stops are leading the way in changing this. I will always pick a Love's gas station on road trips for this reason.
WhatsApp. The only reason I've seen people use it here in the States is to talk to people internationally.
Free healthcare. And a generally functional democracy.
Let's normalize specifying the country when answering these sorts of questions, please, so we don't constantly get tourists doing weird stuff in France, for example, because it's normal in Europe, when it might be something only Germans do, or Poland. Sure, there is some uniformity in Europe, but customs, habits, and laws vary wildly between many countries.
Small fridge. We have giant ones in the US by comparison. There's also not much space in many of our houses here for a massive fridge. I'd like a massive fridge, but my kitchen is small, so we have a fridge freezer, and it's not as big as an American fridge.
Not replying to work emails outside of office hours, i.e., having weekends and time off.
Moved from Canada to Belgium. First trip to the grocery store had some surprises. I couldn't find milk. They don't keep it in the refrigerated section. It's on the shelves in Tetra Paks. I couldn't find sliced bread, but I saw it in other people's carts. Apparently, you pick up a loaf of unsliced bread and put it in the slicer machine. Me and my high school French, excusez-moi, can I watch you slice your bread? Eggs, not refrigerated. Also, Saturday morning at the big box Home Depot equivalent, I'm wearing torn jeans with paint splatters, work boots, and an old hockey jersey with holes in it. All the other gentlemen have suede blazers, ascots, scarves, dress pants, dress shoes. They are in the paint aisle too. They get dressed nicely to go to the stores.
The right to roam and public pathways through private lands. That freedom to transit through different kinds of land ownership and explore nature.
That is certainly not common everywhere in Europe, only in some countries.
We actually have a right to roam in our Vermont Constitution. I think a lot like England. There's a lot of tension around it, but unless you specifically exclude people in a specific, legally acceptable way, your land is open to public use, including hunting.
As an American who has lived in Europe, this one is a strange one to be upvoted. We don't need right to roam laws because we have so much public land. Try to go on a backcountry backpacking trip in Europe. You can't. It's not legal outside of Scotland and Scandinavia. We have probably tens of thousands of trails on BLM land, national forests, and national and state parks. Outdoor recreation in the US is far more wild and accessible. Having promotion and relegation in sports leagues. Although I can only imagine the chaos if the Pirates or White Sox got kicked out of MLB. LOL.
Waiters that don't constantly bother you when you're trying to have a relaxing meal.
Maternity leave of a couple months or years, or split maternity and paternity leave.
My coworker got 6 weeks, but they went out of their way not to tell her it was unpaid because she wouldn't have taken the job if she knew. But then it happened to fall during the holidays when we all got 2 weeks off, and she'd saved up a week of PTO. So she planned on getting a total of 9 weeks off. They tried to make her come back after 6 weeks, saying the holidays and PTO were part of her maternity leave. They only backed off because she literally burst into tears, and then she still had to cut it 1 week short because she couldn't afford the last unpaid week.
We got 100% state-covered expenses for one of the parents, 2 years period plus 1 month for the other. You can take another year, but it's not paid. Usually, the mother takes this time. And yes, your employer cannot fire you during this period. You get all social benefits like healthcare. If you have another child during this period, you can go for another round of 2 + 1 years. Lithuania here.
GSK, a British company but a US site, gave me 1 week of maternity leave. Walking. So many things can be done in Europe just by walking, but in the USA, it usually requires a car.
Christ, the number of times I nearly got run over and killed trying to walk anywhere in the US because everything is a highway. Absolutely terrifying. New York is about one of the only big cities you can safely walk in.
Yup, I live in an area where the only thing I could reasonably reach while walking is an A&W, but by reasonably, I mean a half hour with no sidewalks law. And there is no public transportation to get to anything. We do not have trains, buses, taxis, or anything like that in my area. Sometimes you can't even get an Uber. You really have to drive to do anything.
Walkable neighborhoods are a problem all over North America, Canada, US, Mexico. However, in Canada, at least in some cities or provinces, they are now trying to make more walkable and bikeable neighborhoods. Mexico is pretty bad for it too, and in my experience, most people don't like walking. I recently moved here and people are always surprised if I want to walk to places that are more than a few blocks away. I grew up in Europe, and walking and wandering all over the city is one of my favorite things to do. Lived in Canada for many years and now in Mexico, and I miss the European city life for its walkability.
Air kissing cheek to say hello. I went to France for a few weeks when I was 14 in 1992, American, male, and got used to the custom. Toward the end of my trip, a couple British girls were there with the family, and I could tell they were awkward with the greeting, as they thought I was French and vice versa. We laughed it off later as we snuck extra glasses of wine when dinner was served at like 10 p.m.
Air kissing. In Portugal, we do cheek on cheek.
The price on the tag is the price you pay, unlike in the US where taxes are added when you check out. Same thing for restaurants. Edit, thanks fellow Redditors, I didn't think that this was going to blow up like it did.
I know, Europe can be so weird. It's like, why would you make pricing so simple and straightforward? How come you don't force people to do arithmetic before making a purchase or paying a bill? How come you don't force restaurant patrons to contribute toward the wages of the waitstaff? So weird.
Not everywhere in the US has sales tax. We don't in Oregon, and it's refreshing.
As a European, that one is so strange for me. Why are the tags, at least in some states, without taxes?
The rate of cigarette smoking, especially among youth. I couldn't believe how many people are still smoking cigarettes and how many teenagers were when I went to a few European countries.
I was in Central Europe a few months ago, and the rate that they smoke is absolutely insane. The vast majority at all the clubs and pubs had a drink and a cigarette in hand.
Yes, lots of smoking in Spain during my recent visit. I was pretty surprised.
Europeans are scared of guns. Americans are scared of nipples. In Europe, if you are old enough to fight and die for your country, you are old enough to drink. I don't think we are scared of guns. We just made it a good idea not to let just anyone get a hold of one. I'm in the UK, and if you let people have guns, we would be as bad as America. In fact, I'm pretty sure someone would irritate the hell out of another person and get shot just for looking at someone funny. It's a very good idea. It's illegal to own them here. Seeing little kids being sent out alone on various errands. Young people sitting at sidewalk tables, drinking beer, smoking, chatting quietly amongst themselves, and cleaning up when they're done. Excellent food at reasonable prices, especially bread. People of all income brackets using public transit, hearing half a dozen languages before lunch and being able to conduct basic pleasantries in all of them. Disabled people in public, because almost everything that is necessary to conduct one's life is accessible. Drinking a beer or wine with lunch. And just to be contrarian, there are 0 big pickup trucks around. Trucks are smaller and are never driven by people not actively engaged in trades.
You are dead wrong on the accessibility factor, I'm sorry to say. Not sure where you got that information. Paying servers a fair wage that doesn't require tipping.
Having the actual price of the items displayed. Shocking, I know.
Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. It really helps. Subscribe for more and tap the bell so you don't miss the next one.